Yeah, yeah, that's good. All right, so we're gonna go. We're gonna kick off those who are around and those who are not around, and those who might be around and those who are yet. Yeah. Okay. What? We left off in the middle. We actually didn't really leave off in the middle last time. We were Lamed Vov on the base. What was that? No, not Lamed Vov. Yes, that's right. So we're going to see the Tosfos exactly, because this Tosfos is a very fascinating question. So we and we need to recap the Gemora anyway for the next piece. So let's just understand and recap what we did yesterday outside. So, I mean, not last week, sorry. We had a machlokas. We had two cases, yeah? Two cases where someone is challenged, what are you doing in the land? Or you owe me money, yeah? Either what you're doing in the land or you owe me 100 zuz. Two parallel cases. And in both cases, he says, okay, I've got a document to prove it, right? In the first case, he says, I've got a document to prove that I owed, that you owe me the right, the money, the land is mine, right? I bought it from you, and here's the shtar, right? And the second case, he says, I've got the money. He says that here you owe me money, and I've got a document to prove you owe me money. In both cases, you remember, he was challenged. The other person challenged it and said, it's a forgery. It's a forged document. In other words, that document doesn't prove that you own the land, and that document doesn't prove that I owe you money. But then, in both cases again, he turned around to Rabbi, was there, and said to him, it's true that it was a forged document, but I really had a proper document which was perfectly legitimate, and I thought I'd use this one because this one at least will be was something, because I lost the other one, right? Because I lost the other one. And Rabbi said, and then on both those cases, and it's quite instructive, it's on those cases, it's quite instructive to look at them as parallel cases, right? The land and the money, yeah? Because the debate between Rabbi and Rav Yosef, you remember, was the same debate in both cases, right? Just recapping, it's okay. Rabbi says that there's a logical reason to believe him, which we call Malo Shakir as a migoy. What's the migoy? If he wanted, he could have said, the shtar is perfectly good. You're challenging it as a forgery, and I'm telling you, it's perfectly good shtar. And because he could have said that, we should believe him when he says that actually it's a forged document, but I had a good one and I lost it, right? Now, obviously, for Rabba's idea to work, it has to be that he would have got away with it. And that's what we discussed in the Rashbam, which we'll need for the next sugya as well, different approaches. You know, either it wasn't really a forgery, it was just a document that's not meant to be claimed with, or it was a forgery, but it was such a good forgery, they would have got away with it. But either way, it has to have been that he would have got away with it. Otherwise, there's no migo. You can't say, since he could have said this, and he would be believed, right? You can't, yeah? But that's Rabba's approach, okay? According to Rabba, in case number one, I get to keep the land, right? Because we're going to believe him with the document, because there's migo, malo, and shaka, right? So the document is good, in other words. Well, it's not good, but he keeps the land. And in case number two, what happens? He gets to take the money, right? The document which says he owes money, he gets to take the money. I mean, you've got to keep in your mind these two cases, right? Land and money. Again, that's the critical difference in the cases. The first case, document is proving that I own the land. The second case, the document is proving that you owe me money. Rabba says, in both cases, we go with the shtar. Why? Because of this svara, the migo, right? Which means that practical outcome, according to Rabba, is, in case one, I keep the land, because the document, we go, right? Yeah. And in case two, you need to give me 100 zuz. Okay? Says Rav Yosef, right? You got that? Very important. You got that, right? That's Rabba. Okay? Rav Yosef says, no. Rav Yosef says that in both cases, the shtar is useless. It's like a piece of pottery. Why? Because it's false. It's not useful. Either it's not claimable with, or it's a false document, right? It's a false document, right? And therefore, Rav Yosef says that, and the way Rashbam explains it is that since he has admitted that the shtar is possible. Because you remember, he bent down to Rabbah and said, actually, it's possible. But I had a good one, and that was really good. And I thought I just used this one, and you remember the whole story, right? Says Rav Yosef, if you admit that the star is garnished, that the star is useless, that the star is worthless, then that's like Edus. We say Hodas Baldin Kamedim Domi. The person who is the what's the right word? Paul, you're a liar. What's it called? The protagonist, not the protagonist, the plaintiff or whatever. No, or the two. There's a name for the two of them together. What are they called? Well, yeah, exactly. One of the okay, that'll do. One of the litigants. What? Yeah, simply we say the party. Yeah, if one of them admits something, that's better than 100 Adim. If he says, I admit to you this document is false, well, that's like gold dust, isn't it, in a court of law? Because he's admitted it himself. It's from his own mouth, right? And therefore, Rabbi Yosef says, since he's admitted that this document is nothing, yeah, you can't come along with any migoy or logical argument or whatever. It's all irrelevant. It's all irrelevant. Just like a migoy couldn't beat two Adim, they would, the migoy would be irrelevant in the case of two Adim if there were two Adim against him. So too, if he admits that it's worthless, it also means that it's got no use to the migoy. And therefore, Rabbi Yosef says, in case number one, who gets the land? Yeah, the Morakal person challenging it because I've got no proof. I haven't been there 3 years. I'm just squatting. So forget it. Leave. Yeah. And in case number two, what? Yeah. He does. You don't have to pay him the money because his document is worthless. Right. There you go. So that's Rabbah and Rav Yosef. Now on that, Rav Idi Bar Ovin, right, said an interesting psak. He said, I'm not sure what the halach is. Basically, that's who the Rashbam learns. I'm not sure. It's called a sveika de dinner. We don't know what the law is. We don't know what the rule is. We can't always figure out what the halach is. The Gemora will often say teku. We don't always know how to resolve every question we have. It's a fact, yeah? So Rabbi Birnbaum says this is one of those cases. I don't know how to resolve the case. I don't know who's better. I don't know who's right. Go after Rabbi and Rav Yosef. And therefore, according to the way the Rashbam understands it, we go after basically, we say like this. We say that effectively, right? Therefore, when it comes to the case of the land, case number one, right? That means that we keep the land where it is. We keep the land where it is. You want to take away the land from me, okay? You want to take away the land from me. You can't do that. You can't do that because at the end of the day, I'm holding onto the land at the moment, okay? And therefore, in the case number one, the halacha will come out like Rabbah, right? That not because the star is necessarily knows that the star is good. He's not sure whether the halacha is like Rabbah and Rav Yosef can rely on the star or not. But the fact is that we keep the land with the person who's currently in it, and we say the other guy is hamotzi mechaveroi olav haraya. Because of this sofik in din, he says we'll go after chazaka. In the case of the land, who is machzik, who is muchzik on the land at the moment, the person who's claiming he bought it from him, right? In the case of the money, who is currently muchzik on the money, the person who's holding the money now, the guy at the borrower, exactly, and the guy's claiming the money. So therefore, you keep the money where it is. So if we go like Rav Yosef with money, so it comes out you end up going like Rabbah with the land and Rav Yosef with money because of the doubt in din. That's what Rashbam says.
Does Moxie make apply equally to that land and mama?
So land that's the big problem, basically. I mean, in a nutshell, that's what we're going to see Tosfos now, because this is completely, and this is what Martin, I think you asked this last time because you saw the show, is that this goes contrary to the whole parak. If you used Hamotzi Mechaver Olav Haraya land, then the whole idea of Chazaka is kind of out the window. Because every scenario of Chazaka is I'm squatting in the land, right? I'm here. I've built a house. I built a house. I'm sitting in a house. No one disputes that. In the case of Chazaka, all these cases of Chazaka, no one disputes that you're there now, right? But as we learned at the beginning of the parak, if you remember, we saw that Ketzos, and the different approaches as to the, why it is that a person, why was Chazaka instituted? Remember, the Ketzos learns it's basically a takonas chachomim, because otherwise no one could ever be sure that they, they could keep land, because you can't. It's not the same as metaltalin. I can't move a item. I can just sort of hold it? How can I prove ownership? I'm not going to keep my documents. I'm going to lose my documents after 3 years. So it's a konas chachomim basically after 3 years. But until 3 years, we assume it belongs to the morikam. If I've got no proof, you should have a proof. You need a shtar. So why is it that here we can come along and say discount effectively the morikam, right? That's really the question.
Not in stages, but it's not like Chakono, then Hamas and Chaver, and then Shah.
What do you mean? You've got a problem here. You've got a problem.
I'm saying, how can it be that if you're going to say Hamas and Chaver, you can work out the whole in the Chakono first?
Yeah, because you no, it's just that you. Yeah, if I come along as the owner, the previous owner, the morikama, you're going to just respond to me and say, I'm here now.
So I'm saying, so the Chacham instituted Takoma.
Yeah.
Or Chazaka.
Yeah.
Therefore, are we saying that Chazaka is first, then Hamadsi is second?
What do you mean? It's second. It's they can't go together. No, they contradict each other. That's the problem.
They're no longer priorities.
Yeah. No, because they contradict. You can't have both existing at once.
You can't have Chazaka then.
Chazaka by definition contradicts the most of right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The laws of Chazaka contradict that because at the end of the day, there's obviously a mechanism here not to be able to say I'm right. That's how Chazaka. Let's see Tosfos, and you'll see how Tosfos phrases it. Yeah, but they are they're both not really. I mean, Chazaka is a takanas chachomim because of a svara that people don't keep their documents for 3 years, etc., etc. If I'm not mistaken, is learned from a pasuk.
Would that not count?
It's different. No. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You can't. Doesn't work with land.
Bad analogy. It's a condition of Bryce.
No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that because the concept of Hamotzi Mechaver Olav Haraya is not applicable to land. That's the point, and that's the point.
So then that's your answer.
No, but it's not. But here we're saying it is, and that's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem. But let's see how Tosfos phrases it. Look at how Tosfos phrases it.
Which one?
Tosfos is the second Tosfos. So he says, Rabbeinu Shmuel Pirish, can you see that? The Rabbeinu Shmuel, as the Rashbam explains, that we have a suffix who the halacha is like, okay, and therefore we go like land with like this and like money like this. So tzorech litchoik ulefarish, right? We have to therefore, according to the Rashbam, with difficulty, explain or lechalik and make a distinction between sveiko de trey or trey. Between a doubt where you have 2 against 2 and a doubt which is a fundamental doubt in din, who to paskin like. In other words, Tosfos says, again, Tosfos as always, Kedarko doesn't, you have to realize what question he's asking, as he develops it, right? We in Ksubas, Tav Chof Amud Aleph, you have a story of 2 against 2, and because it's 2 Eidim against 2, right? What do we do? What do we say? We say, okay, 2 against 2. We go after Cheskes Morikama. We go after the Chazaka, who the original owner was, right? That's what you do. Right? So why is it we don't say the same thing? So there we say the Oki Trey Bahadi Trey. We say 2 against 2. The Oki Nichsi B'Cheskes Bar Shatya, and you say it belongs to the Bar Shatya. That was the name of the person involved in that case. So you have to say. Hasam havu trey or trey command less nudomi. You have to say that there, the 2 against 2 cancel each other out. In other words, if both parties have 2 Eidim each, so they are therefore have no Eidim because 2 cancels out 2 and therefore they're irrelevant. And therefore you're back to square one. And that means and therefore the land is in the chazaka of the original owner. That's where you go back to, because I've got no proof, you've got no proof, so exactly stick where it was originally, because everyone knows. Remember, the guy's got proof he used to own it. You remember that? Every case of chazaka starts the same way, right? I've got proof. No one disputes that I own it, that I used to own it. Every case of chazaka is like that, right? You know what I mean? We discussed that many times. There is always a cheskes morikama in any scenario of chazaka. There's always a proof. I've got document. My father used to own this land, or whatever it is. That's not up for dispute. On the contrary, your claim is that you took ownership of it later on because you bought it from me or because whatever, etc. And we saw lots of different cases, but the standard case of chazaka is no one disputes that I used to own this piece of land. right? Now, aval hocha the mesapkal on dino kaman hosam kaman, right? Here, where we have a doubt in din, who the halacha is like, hosam lo shayach kulei ha'ile meimar okmo acheskas morakamo. Okay, the note simiyat hamuchsak. Here, it's not so applicable to say you go after the chazaka of the original owner and therefore remove it from the muchsak, from the one who currently has possession. And Tosos is v'doichaku, but it's very difficult to understand this. Now, what all Tosos has done is basically framed the question, really, okay? Has framed the question and suggested the beginnings of an answer. The question is like this, okay? The question is like this. We know from elsewhere that where it's unresolvable in terms of working out who takes ownership, like in these cases of land or whatever, you don't say, go after the muhsar, right? You know, if I've got 2 Adim, you've got 2 Adim, and therefore we cancel each other out, no, then you go by the default, which is how we always explained it. We always said that, right? You know, you want to prove by chazaka? Great. If you've got to prove chazaka, then you'll get it, right? If you can prove your 3 years, etc., great. If not, it always flings back to the original owner, right? And that's the case with you. That's all it's looking. So it has to say, you have to say with bedoicha, difficulty, you have to say that where you have both, there's no dispute about on an evidence basis, but we have a doubt in din who to paskin like, then there is more of a reason to say, there is less of a reason, sorry, to say you go after the original owner, all right, and therefore we stay with the muhsar. We stay with currently the guy who's in the land now, all right? This doesn't explain more than that. Okay, so now you want to know why.
Yeah.
Okay, so for this we're going to go to Rabbi Chaim Wasserman. Now, Shem Yim Kom Domo. Unbelievable to learn some of his Torah. You know the Torah's Torah, Rabbi Chaim Wasserman. Unbelievable. Anyway, I put many photocopies. It's only a small piece. Unfortunately, for the benefit of those on Zoom, I'm not sure how I can.
So it's story in terms of the story or just generally?
I might be able to do it. Hold on a second. What was that? Rabbi Chaim Wasserman was murdered in the 9th century outside Kovno. It was a huge Talmid Chacham. What?
He's still within my
Yeah.
other grandpa.
Oh, really?
He's on Zoom.
Who's on Zoom? 2 people.
Show me which.
No, I think it's a. Oh, you want to do it like that? Ah, okay. Okay. That's a good idea. All right.
The whole page.
Yeah. We need this bit and this bit. No, it's not a short. It's not a long piece. It's just I thought very special to learn some of his Torah. When do we have an opportunity to learn it? Okay, so he says. Okay, so the benefit of those on Zoom. Martin is going to be posting the piece. You sent it?
Yeah.
On the group. Very good. Excellent. Right. Great. Okay, so it's a short piece. It's Kuf Lamed Vov. So it's the bottom of the first. I know I photocopied the pages because it's over 2 pages. So you can see that it's Kuf Lamed Vov at the bottom of the first column. Yeah. Right.
So our question is, why does
We're trying to resolve and understand what Tosfos means when he suggests this distinction between when there's a suffix in din, where we go after the person who's muhsik now. Yeah. Quotes Tosfos, ben sveika de trey, a suffix which is 2 against 2, the sveika de dina, whereas a suffix in din. L'chora nira kavanoso. It would seem that the intention of Tosfos is the same as the Acharonim write, the sveika de dina lo mahanya chazaka. That in a suffix in din, who we paskin like, then chazaka does not help. The b'shvila chazaka lo yishtana hadin, because the law, the rule, the psak is not going to change because of chazaka. The cheskas morei kama he chazaka kechol chazakas, and the chazaka of the morei kama, of the original owner, is a chazaka like any other chazakas. What does chazaka mean here? Yes, it means presumption. It does not mean there's the chazaka can mean multiple different things, as we've learned, right? He's going to address here 2 possible alternative meanings of the word of chazaka. On the one hand, chazaka can mean an assumption, a presumption, right? What is the presumption? The presumption is that because everyone knows I used to be the owner, therefore it's quite likely I'm still the owner, right? So it's an assumption, right? It's a reasonable rationale for going down a certain route, right? But and he says if you say that, and that's what cheskas mori kama is, chazak of the original owner is. If you say that's what it is, right? Then you could try and present the argument that we disregard any type of assumption chazaka, in a situation where we have a doubt in din, because a presumption is not going to be enough, right? Is not going to be enough to change the din, to change the halacha, to change what the psak is. It's not going to help it.
I don't want to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
When you're saying there's a presumption of something,
Yeah.
then that is a din in itself. So is that the argument? Maybe that's the argument why you can't, because if you don't know the din, you can't impose a legal rule, which in itself is a din, which is a chazaka.
Could be. Maybe.
Because we don't
Yeah,
know the din.
yeah.
Chazaka is part of the din.
Yeah, it could be. It's obviously part of a bigger discussion amongst the Achronim, how where there's a suffix in din, you're not going to be able to sway it one way or the other based on a simple presumption. But in a nutshell, which obviously is discussed elsewhere, it's first the Achronim, right? Fine. The problem he has is that actually that doesn't work, because cheskas morikama is much stronger than that. That's not a cheskas morikama is not just a presumption. Avol be'emes eino kain says that's not right. Elo cheskas morikama b'karka, cheskas morikama, the chazaka of the original owner in land. He cheskas momon. It's a chazaka like you're holding money. Like someone who's muchsak in metaltalin. That's not presumption, right? The next type of chazaka, okay, is not a presumption. The word muchsak, it means to take hold of, right? To actually hold on to. Yeah, it's much stronger. It's certainly much stronger. It's a possession. Exactly. Cheskas morikama, says Rabbi Chanan, is the same as someone who's muchsak in metaltalin. What does it mean to be muchsak in metaltalin? If I'm holding onto this basket, it's mine. That's not a presumption that it's mine, right? That's not a presumption. If a person is muchsak in metaltalin, then basically, of course, we translate the same way. We assume it's yours, but it's more than an assumption. It's more than okay, we've got a doubt, and therefore we'll go with the presumption. It's much stronger than that. It's a chazaka. It's an ownership. It's an ownership of it, right? Cheskas morikama is that level. That's what it means to be the cheskas morikama, right? You're the owner. You're presumed owner, and that's proven otherwise. Okay. The kivan de mahani muchsak besveika de dina loma lo toil cheskas morikama, and someone who is muchsak in this way, like in the case of where we don't know how to paskin the halacha, right? Let's think about a metaltalin case. Okay, shnai mochas in betalis. Classic example of Mitzvah. Not Shnai Mochazin, let's say one is Oiches, right? The person, one is holding the talis, and the other one comes along and says it's mine. If we have a sofik how to paskin, we're going to go with the muchsuk metaltalin. We're going to say your muchsuk, it's yours, right? And the same thing here. Loma lo tzal cheskas morikama. Cheskas morikama is so strong that it's a possession. It's a possessive thing, and therefore, it should definitely work, even if there's a sofik as to who the halach was like. Okay. And therefore, we're still back to square one, how to understand why it is, right, according to the Rashbam, that we should go after the current person currently in the land, as opposed to the Morikama, right, where he should have a much stronger claim. Okay? So he says like this, V'nira kavanosam. So he says, therefore, you have to explain Tosfos in the following way. L'fima shekosav Rashbam l'kamon kuf samach vav. According to that which the Rashbam, the next page, according to that which the Rashbam explains later on, Daf Kuf Samach Vav, Lechalek alibo de Sumchos, to make a distinction according to Sumchos. The Besveika did not remember Sumchos. Sumchos says Echlok. Sumchos famously says, what? He says it in multiple places. I used to give a Daf Yomi shir I remember in Barnet Shul. I was one member of the shir. He loved Sumchos. He was a big Sumchos fan. Whenever Sumchos came up, he said, Sumchos, So Sumchos, So Sumchus says, yeah, of course not. So basically, I just want to see whether we see the case there. Okay.
It says low. It's a low.
No, and yeah. Anyway, the point is that even though we'd have to find where. Okay, we don't go into case. Anyway, the point is that we don't go like Sumchus. He says like this. The Rashbam says later on, the besveika the dinar moida Sumchus to lo yachlok. That's what Rashbam establishes there. Yeah, that if there's a suffix in halacha, how to paskin, right? We don't say yachlok. We don't say they divide it. Kivan shadayonin ein on yoda in hadin, and the logic is that since the dayonin themselves don't know the din, right? Yisalku atzmon. The only thing they can do is remove themselves. If we, the Beis Din, don't know what the halacha is like, we can't impose like an order like, okay, you take half and I'll take half, because that's not right. How can we don't have authority to do that. It's very interesting idea. If there's a suffix as to who is the owner, right? If there's a suffix as to who is the owner or who is right, not a suffix in din. We know what the halach is. We just don't know the case, don't know the facts. So we don't know the facts. Says Sumchus. I mean, whatever case Sumchus talking about, right? Sumchus says yachloku. We don't know yachloku. But what's the case? You know, Shoshanag Hasapara, Daf Mu. You know Daf Mu in Bava Kama, right? No, Shoshanag Hasapara, it's Daf Mu. You know that? Didn't know that? Yeah, of course, Daf Mu, Daf Membov. Shoshanag Hasapara is Daf Mu. That's how you remember it, yeah? Yeah. I think it's Shoshanag Hasapara. Anyway, the point is that there Sumchus can say yachloku because we have a sofek as to whether we don't know the facts, so we say yachloku.
So that means divide equally.
Yeah, divide equally. However, if, says the Rashbam, we don't know the halacha, it's not a question of what the facts are, we don't know the halacha, the Dayanim can't impose a division. What the only thing that the Dayanim need to do halachically is just step back. Elahecha, the kaya is the koi zilokmi. Wherever the money is, that's where it stays. The chol da alim kvar. And whoever's strongest wins. Ve'ein on poskin shum din vadai. They can't impose any psak because they don't know the halacha. So they cannot impose a psak. Beis Din cannot impose a psak. And therefore, loy amrinon, we cannot say oki becheskas mora kamu. And that's why here, according to the Rashbam, we can't say put it into the chazaka of the original owner. Give it to him. He's got that strong possession because that's already a psak. Where's the land now? The land is with this guy. The land is the guy who's currently squatting in the land. And you're right. That seems to fly in the face of what we think it should be. We think, according to everything we've learned, right, that if it's a doubt, don't know what to do, so go with the default. What's the default? The default was the original owner. You can't do that here. Yeah, because that's already a legal decision. You're going to remove it from Shimon and give it to Ruvain. That's what you're going to do. Okay, they have to be masalik themselves. They can't paskin a din. And that is why you cannot here, and it's unique to here, put it in the chazaka of the Moreh Kama, the original owner.
Because they're keeping where it is.
That's not psak. That is not psak.
Like a Sheva Altas.
It's a Shev Altas. That's exactly what it is. It's the same thing as the money. With the other case, when I come along with the shtar, here you owe me 100 zuz. Wherever the money is, leave it. We're not getting involved.
They're not leaving where they're not doing anything. They're just stepping back. And that's my question, isn't it? Doesn't become like the law of the jungle at that point. When Beis Din don't have it.
What choice? That's called Alim Kvar. That is called Alim Kvar. Called Alim Kvar basically means the strongest wins.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it means.
But that
Now here, no, here's a bit here. No, here's a bit. I'm saying here's a bit different because it's a bit of a question. Actually, we're not saying Kol Alim Kvar here. We're saying wherever the land is, that's where it needs to stay. So it's a bit different. It's slightly different. It's a bit of a question why he says you say Kol Alim Kvar because we're not really saying Kol Alim Kvar. As Kol Alim Kvar is coming up, don't worry. It's in about a daf's time. Fascinating stuff. We're going to do the Kol Alim Kvar where you get to see the punch up basically. And does it mean that? And does it really mean that? Because some say it doesn't mean that. It means proof. You've got to bring riots as opposed to literally whoever's stronger, right? But this is discussed later, another sugya. But the point here is, this is one of the reasons why I thought it was worth spending a bit more time on this Tosfos and understanding it with Rabbi Chanan, because this is really like fundamental stuff here. But I don't know if anyone's following. Are you following, Martin? Are you with it? You're like, let's say it back for the.
I'm going to ask that question, which is.
Say it back first for the benefit of the Olam. I want to make sure everyone understands. No, it's not a test. Oh, yeah, no, the whole thing. Sorry, I don't mean to test you. How do you understand the distinction that he's making? Why this is kind of a unique case where we therefore paskin differently to what we would normally expect.
So the way I've understood it is because it's a suffix and din,
Yeah.
he's basically saying that, stop at the end. Because it's a suffix and din, therefore you can't really decide, and therefore whoever's currently holding the land, that's who gets to keep it, because the Dayanim can't come along and take anything from anyone because they don't have any mechanics by which to do
exactly. So even though Cheskas Marikama is really strong, and it is really strong, and it's like a Chazok and Matat and everything else, and normally that would be the default. We can't, it's a psak.
This is where I'm stuck. So, and this is why it's a stupid question. But if according to the Rashbam comes along and he's saying that actually Cheskas Marikama is a really strong Chazaka, and this is where the Machlekes is, it's actually not case. Even if he comes along and he invalidates his own shtar, then you've still got something on the table, which is a Cheskas Marikama, which is a full-blown Chazaka. Okay. So why don't we then give it back to the Marikama? But we're going, actually, it's a suffix and din.
That's the thing. That's the point.
A strong counter argument.
How can you do that? How can you take it away from someone and give it to someone else?
If it's a suffix and din, then I completely understand that. Where my question is, the way I now understand Cheskas Marikama. Yeah. Where's the suffix in the din? You've got one side. He's got a Cheskas Marikama. Yeah. Which is a strong Chazaka. Yes. And the other guy is coming along with Al Chazaka with a shtar that he's admitted is not quite kosher yasher. Right. So even I can't remember to the Sefer who says, sorry, even according to the ratio who says actually we've got to hold that up. Yeah. And therefore it's something then because it's kind of a migu. Yes. But even then it's not. How's that stronger than a Cheskas Marikam?
I mean, well, it's not. Meaning, it's not. We're not. He's not getting it because of the shtar. He's getting it because that's the only option based in a left with. In other words, you have to follow the track. According to Rabbi Chanan, the logic is you have to follow the track of almost like the least, because it's a suffix and din. The only thing Beis Din can do is minimal involvement. And therefore, the only pathway left in terms of minimal involvement is to leave it where it is. It's not ideal and it's not great and it doesn't resolve a lot of things, but there's no other option. I mean, I'm just looking here. I don't know. I know some of you have only got the article. But if you've got the full sector, then it's a daf kuf samach vav on the base. The Rashbam. This is Basra is an incredibly long sector. So you go to kuf samach vav on the base. Well, in the article, it is like volume 27 of Basra, right? So you go to kuf samach vav on the base, which is in Get Poshet. And it's the last Rashbam on the it's not a long Rashbam, it's just on the end of Kusam of Zero Maskal Teku. And the Rashbam says there like this. On the base, sorry, Kusam of base. It's a penultimate Rashbam where it says Teku, yeah. We're not going to go into the case of the Gemora there. The given mistapik dino lebei dino, since the Beis Din themselves have a sopik, miyad hamuchs machzik, how can they take it away from the person who's currently got it, the machzik, right? It's not comparable to a money which is fundamentally in a situation of doubt, where the doubt is not in the din, the doubt is in the facts, right? The Chaim alon cholkin, where we paskin cholkin, you divide it. The wholesome ikara ma'isa in your dualanu he'achoya. There, we don't know the story. Kegoin, an ox gores a cow. The classic case, right? An ox gores a cow, and the fetus is found next to the cow, and we don't know whether it was before or after the goring. Did it kill the animal? Right? Or could go another case, nofal abayas olov al imoy. That's another case, also a case in Yesh Nochen about inheritance, where the house collapses on top of a person and his mother. So we don't know who died first. If the mother died first, then he inherits, and his Yerushin will inherit, right? If not, then whatever, not that, all that type of story, something like that. Helkach, therefore, poskin lahen based in es hadin sheachloku. In those cases where the doubt is not with us, the doubt is on the facts. So then the halacha is based in can impose a psak because the facts are unclear and are unresolvable, because we will never know when there are no security cameras, no CCTV. We do not know who died first. It is unresolvable, the facts, and therefore yachloku 50-50. Avol kol mokom, says the Rashbam, she'olsa ha'halacha b'teiku. Wherever the halacha is teiku, so we don't know what to do. Ve'ein hadayonin yodin of sokes adin, right? And the dayonin don't know how to paskin. How you shotkin, all they can do is be silent. And the machzik will keep hold of whatever he's currently got. Lucky him. Yeah, status quo, nothing you can do. Lucky him, he wins the day.
In the Baba Matsiya case, Toras, though, aren't those factually clear cases where we say split the Toras, where we say
yeah, no, I was wrong to sort of go down the route of the Baba Matsiya case because there the achloku is not because we have a doubt on the facts. There when you say achloku is because of dinei muchsek. So I have got ownership of half and you've got ownership of half, and therefore we each own up to this point on the title. So that was a bad, that's when we say achloku, we immediately think of that. But actually we're not talking about these cases. We're talking about cases where it was a bit confusing. We're talking about a suffix where there's a suffix in fact. So this is, I think that helps. What the Rashbam says very clearly there is you've got to make a distinction between where we have the suffix or where you have the suffix, right? If you have the suffix, the facts are in doubt. Well, that's not based in his fault, but the facts are in doubt. So we'll decide what to do, and the fairest way to do things sometimes is to say 50-50, right? But in a situation where effectively we've caused the problem, not really, because it's not our fault. We don't know how to paskin. We don't know what halacha is. So I'm afraid that based on all they can do is take the path of least resistance, your sort of thing. We just remove ourselves, okay? And that's the Rashbam's logic, and that's what Tosfos means when he says in difficulty we have to resolve it in this way and say that it's not the same. Now the Rabbi Chanan has a few more lines. Tosfos himself disagrees with the Rashbam. Tosfos does not like this pshat, and Tosfos disagrees with the Rashbam. Tosfos says there is no logic, there's no reason to make a distinction in this way between a suffix in din and a suffix in Maisa, and in both cases you should really go with the Morikam. And therefore Tosfos gives a different pshat in the Gemara. It's not. Are we okay to see that? Okay, so we're on. The original owner. It doesn't matter, whoever it is. It doesn't matter who he could either be the litigant. It doesn't make a difference. Here it's the person claiming the land. That you're squatting in my land. Yeah. Now go back to Tosfos. Tosfos says v'doichik. That's his question on the Rashbam. V'doichik is dodgy. What's dodgy? Now that we've seen Rabbi Chanan, we understand what the problem is. What's the problem? Why does Tosfos say it's doichik the Rashbam? Because the Rashbam's whole pshat in the sugya is based on a distinction between, a suffix in din and a suffix in maisa, right? And on that he builds this whole picture. Here, it's a special case because a suffix in din, therefore, based in effectively remove themselves, and that's why the land stays with the guy who's got it now, even though everywhere else, we've always said, if you don't, it goes back to the original owner, right? Tosfos says that's dodgy. V'oid, and furthermore, the hilchasa mashma the gamri posik karabo. When Ravidi Bar Ovin says the halacha is like Rabba, that implies that he paskins like Rabba. V'lo misofek, okay, and not as a doubt, meaning afilu ovad Rav Yosef, but the Eved lo ovad. And even if you went like Rav Yosef and you paskin like him, but the Eved, you would not be correct. So in other words, Tosfos has two questions. The genius of Tosfos is, again, Sometimes it's worth doing this, just learning. We don't have time to do this, right? To spend time understanding properly what Tosfos is doing here. The genius of what he's doing is he's attacking the Rashbam on two fronts, in Svara and in the language of the Gemara. That's how he's fighting. Are you with me? Yeah, he's attacking the Rashbam in logic, and he's saying you want to make a distinction between. Again, we need the Rebbe Chanan to understand it. Yeah, a distinction between the Sophic in Din and the Sophic in Maisa. I don't understand this. Doesn't make sense. Why should you make a distinction? We should always go after the Morikama. So logically, it doesn't make sense. He says, and secondly, the Gemara says, Rabbi Birnbaum says halacha like Rabba in land, halacha like Rav Yosef in Zuzni with money. He doesn't say anything about because of a Sophic, therefore you keep the land with him, and if you keep money with him. He doesn't say that. He says, I paskin like Rabba 100% with land, 100% like Rav Yosef with money. And therefore it must be a completely different pshat in the Gemara. You with me? Yeah? Venira Lari, so the Rethink says like this, the Hainu time of the Helchos of Arak Rabba, Rav Yosef is Zuzi. You want to know why? The halacha is like Rabba with land and like Rav Yosef with money. Mishum da amrinon migoy la'okmi momoina. Because we can use the logic of a migoy, which the whole sugi was built on, the Malu L'Shaker, to keep money or property, money or property, where it is. Ve'is lon la'okmi ara v'chezkas mora d'kaima hashta. And we can therefore keep the land in the possession of the person who's currently in possession of it. Okay. Okay, the rest we can leave out. The rest, he has a side question from the morning Subas, and he basically resolves it by saying that don't ask me a question because there was a star, whatever. It's not the same facts as here, basically. So leave the rest of it. But the point is Tosfos says like this, that the fundamental distinction is not about a Sophic in Din. There's no Sophic. Yeah, no, nothing to do with that at all. There's no Sophic. No Sophic. According to Tosfos. 1 second. Nothing to do with the Rashbam. The Tosfos says no. The Rashbam says there's a Sophic in Din. Yeah, that's right. Sophic in Din. Tosfos says there's no Sophic at all here. Right? It's all crystal clear. Rabbi Birnbaum knows exactly what he's doing. There's no doubt. He hasn't got any doubts. He says the halacha is like Rabba with land, and the halacha is like Rav Yosef in money. Why? Because Rabba's whole argument is built on a svara, and that svara is a migoy, and the migoy is Malil Shake. Why is this guy lying? When he said that the forward document was a forgery, yeah, if it really was a forgery, he would have said. He could have just said it wasn't a forgery. That's what the logic was. He could have said it was a good document, and he would have been believed. And therefore, you believe him when he says it's a forgery. But I had a good one. Okay, I had a good one. Says Tosfos, Rabbi Birnbaum looks at the cases and says it's true. The Rabbah makes the same argument in both cases that you have a migoy, but the cases are fundamentally different. In case one, it's a migoy, right, to keep something in your possession. In case two, it's a migoy lehoitzi. It's a migoy to remove it from someone's possession. And that's the difference. Who's got the migoy in case two with the money? The person coming along with a star saying you owe me 100 zuz. Migoy lehoitzi lo amrinon. That's the klal. You can't use a migoy. Remember I told you when we started the sugya, migoy has rules. Migoy is a logical argument. Since I could have said this, therefore believe me this. But it doesn't work everywhere. It doesn't work in all sorts of cases. And one of the cases it does not work is migoy lehoitzi. Okay, Tosfos actually says that in the previous case. Well, I cannot ever say use a migoy to take money away. Doesn't work, right? Doesn't work. And therefore, Rav Idi Bar Oven says that when it comes to land, we can paskin like Rabbah, because Rabbah's migoy can work in that case, because I've got the land and I'm coming along with a migoy to support my claim to the land. I am currently in the land, yeah, and therefore you can't take it away from me, okay? And whereas in the other case, it doesn't work, because in the other case, I'm coming along with a migoy to support my claim that you owe me money. And that doesn't work, right? That doesn't work because it's basically a migoy lahotzi. It's a migoy to remove the money.
My question is,
So why doesn't it work?
What?
why?
No, because that's the rule. That's the rule. The rule is, I mean, Tosus goes into this in the previous Tosus in more detail in a way.
Can't use Migo to.
It's a logical construct. We can only go so far. It's a logical construct.
Yeah. Yeah. One second. He sees Muxab Karka. One second. Second. Yeah, I mean the truth is we'll probably come up. It will probably come up again, and we may have the opportunity to re-examine why it is that you can't say migo lahotzi, a migo to get. I think simple pshat is what you're saying, is as you're saying, right? It's simply not strong enough. The only way I can remove something from someone else's possession, is with something stronger than a logical argument that I could have given him a better answer, therefore I should be believed. At the end of the day, you've got possession, right? So you want to get out of his possession, you need Adim, you need Raya Barura, you need clear proof. You don't have any of that, right? You don't have any of that, okay? You understand, right? Now, this according to the way Tosfos has done, is he's simply explained that Rav Bar Ovin is absolutely sure about what he's doing, and he's passing like Rabba with land when it's not a Migul Hotzi, and like Rav Yosef Bezuzi with money, because then it's a Migul Hotzi, Migul doesn't work, right? I mean, the truth is that the previous Tosfos goes what the previous Tosfos tries to do, at least partly, which don't worry, we're not going to go to. The previous Tosfos tries to do is explain, therefore, Rav Yosef's opinion in the case of the land. Why is it that Rav Yosef disregards, therefore, Rabba's migo in the case of land? If it's not migo lahotzi, it's a migo to support me. Why does Rav say this? Say the document is useless. So he says that the reason is because no, because it's not, you're not called muhsik in the land because cheskes morikama.
I thought Rabbi Yosef doesn't, because he says he's a forger. Can't be trusted.
No, but the migo still exists. That it still is a logical reason to say you're telling the truth. That's what migo is. You still have a reason to say you're telling the truth. But according to Tosfos, again, this is just one part of it. But according to Tosfos, Tosfos says like this: Rav Yosef will respond to Rabbah and say, "It's not so clear that this is a migo lahachzik, migo to keep it with me, and not a migo lahotzi, because what makes you a muhsik is not the morikama could be called the muhsik, not you. So you're squatting in the land now. That doesn't mean you're necessarily the owner."
Yeah, but you have possession.
I know that. Yeah, exactly. Possession again. I know I'm confusing things a little bit here because. Yeah.
So clearly, as a
No.
he's the boxer because he was.
No, you have the original. You have the end of the claim of it being the original owner, right? And we've argued many times that we say karka b'chezkas ba'alei kaimo. The karka stays, and is assumed to be in the ownership of the original owners, and therefore it's not clear that you are considered to be a migo. It's a migo lahachzik. It's a migo keeping your land just because you're squatting in the land, in other words, right? By the way, that's how Tosfos learned. Okay, so I know this has taken us quite a bit of time, but I think it's been worthwhile. Yeah.
Rashbam's original supposition, if you will.
Yeah.
Position.
Yeah.
Where he says that there was a difference between din and Meiser.
Yeah.
What's that coming from? Where's it coming from?
Where?
What's his basis for coming up with that?
What's it? Well, again, it's a svara.
Sorry.
Yeah, because it's the svara is that we're based in step in and say achloku, you divide it 50-50, is only in a scenario where there's a fundamental doubt about the facts. and therefore we don't know how to resolve it, and therefore we say split it 50-50. It's like a form of pshara, it's like a compromise, basically. It's not quite, but it's like that type of thing, right? There's a whole shaila about whether pshara is a din or not. It's actually sucked in, that's it. But if it's a doubt in din, as to what the halacha is like, then all based din can do is remove themselves. And that means the effect is it stays where it is, which is the outcome.
I've got a real problem with it.
That's suffix in din.
The base to remove themselves, so we can't judge it.
They wash their hands of it.
That really is bringing the base into disrepute.
Why?
People they've got a dispute, there's still a dispute out there for who owns the land, and they've got nowhere to go, and yet they could end up with a fight. It can't be that. It must be that they leave things where they are. It's very different thing to say, well, yeah, quite, but to say
no, it's not. They're not. Okay.
We're not going to change.
We're not saying they leave it up to them. We're not saying that. There is a concept of kol da'alim var, and it's a bit, as I said, it's a bit difficult to understand why Rabbi Chaim puts that in here. I think because he's talking more generally. In cases such as this, you go down this suite of options, like, if you know what I mean, like kol da'alim var, or wherever the money is, that's where it stays. Where the land is, where it stays. You kind of go down this route. That's what Toras is. That's what I think that Toras is saying. That's what the Rabbi Chaim is saying. But it's not that we are just simply removing ourselves completely from saying anything. From saying anything. Does that make sense, or have I sort of mortally confused everyone? No, is it okay? Is it yeah? I hope it's been worthwhile. I mean, it's always worth learning Torah, but I know, we've kind of like stayed on this, but I just think this is just such a fascinating, an important sugya. Well, Jeremy was first. It was.
I never understood why there was a suffix in the din, because the suffix in the din is because there's two opinions.
Yes.
And Rabbi Yosef.
Yes.
The whole of Gemora is littered when there's two opinions, and they come down on it. They come down on an offense.
Who comes down on a fence? Not always. Sometimes it's Teku.
But more often than not, if it's Beis Hillel or Beis Shammai, we follow Beis Shammai.
That's different. Then there's a psat. That's not the same. This is where, according to the way the Rashbam understands this is a case where it is left fundamentally unresolved.
That's like
Halacha. Now you do have that many cases. You have that many occasions, right? Every case, you're correct in the sense that every case of Teku, you have to be careful there because you have to make a distinction between like Choshen Mishpat, like Mominus, monetary matters, right? And let's say Issa Vehetel, Halach, or Kashrus, or whatever. If let's say I've got a suffix what bracha to make, okay, and let's say it's a suffix in din. There are certain foods, there's a suffix in din. There's a suffix in din, what bracha to make on a certain food. We don't know. It's not resolved. For example, right? I can't think of an example offhand, but that's not a suffix in din. You have a suffix.
Whether to
quinoa.
The spaghetti or whether to do two separate brachas. It's a suffix in din.
That would well, I don't think so, because there you resolve it by having two brachas.
I'm saying that is one.
Yeah.
That is one view that you say two brothers. A lot of people say anything where there's a mazonos, that is the
okay, but that's still a doubt in fact, like as in. Okay, yeah, I know what you mean. I'm not sure. Why does Richie think quinoa is an example?
What did he say?
Quinoa. Is it Richie? Is quinoa an example?
I mean, whether it's
is there a fundamental suffix of the broth? I thought quinoa was.
It is.
Saldama, no?
Some people say it's mazonos.
How can it be mazonos? Not one of those. Not one of the Sheva. Definitely not mazonos. Richie, explain. I'm listening. We're listening. We're all listening.
Don't know. I retract.
Okay. No, it's definitely not mazonos. I mean, it's not.
no,
You might be right. I don't know.
No, that's right.
but it's not.
No, kosher. Yeah, there's something about Pesach. Maybe that's what you meant. I don't know. Kosher to Pesach is a problem. Is that what you meant, Richie? Maybe that's what you meant. Kosher. Yeah, whether that. But that's a suffix of a kitnius, whether it's kitnius or not.
Right, it's definitely not something.
Yeah. But 1 minute. So 1 second. So 1 second.
Yeah.
No,
The euros.
Just because they were big.
No, I know they existed, so they weren't. They're not getting. That's why I don't know.
No, I thought that was because they were big and they weren't around that.
No, they go with beans, peas. No, I don't know how that's what.
Yeah, 1 second.
That's fact. That's not.
So just to come back to I just want to say no because Mikhail said something here. Okay, no. Jeremy, your point is like this: is that you can have a suffix in din. Let's say in a Siddhartha, the example like on what bracha to make on something. Obviously, that has to have a halacha. We have to know what to do. So we don't ban you eating the food. So therefore, we go back to basic principles. We say maybe it'll be shahakal. We don't know. Whatever it's going to be, there will be a psak as to what to do. Now that's not the same as a suffix in din, right? In a where's a choshen mishpat case. If you bring a litigant to court and you ask based on psak, and let's say it's an area, and it might be unusual, man, it'll be that many cases, but there might be a few cases where it is a teku, it's unresolved. So what are Basin supposed to do? You have who owns it? You, me, or him? We don't know.
Would you do in a case where you bring 2 Adim and you bring 2 Adim?
No, that's different again, because that's also a doubt in fact.
Yeah.
Think about it. Because you brought 2 Adim and he brought 2 Adim, therefore the facts are in doubt. I don't know who's right? And therefore we have halachas that govern that, but that will allow Basin to be more sort of like more proactive because it's the doubt and facts, and there are rules governing how you doubt, how you paskin facts. But when the doubt is in halacha, it's not the same as like a case in, let's say, or Chaim, where I've got am I allowed to eat this on Pesach? No, it's sofek, have to machmir because it's Pesach, therefore we can't eat it. For example, let's take the kidneys example, right? Again, there are different body didn't pass different things about quinoa, but I'm just saying this is where it comes down to, right? This is different. You can't just be machmir or makel. Here we have to have a resolution in some way. Here the basin they can't be proactive. They have to basically say we have to take the path that allows it to stay effectively. Here means it stays where it is. Right?
My question was about Muslim.
Yes.
It's 2 other definitions.
What do you mean of what?
You said we translate chazaka in one way.
No, so the first part where he wanted to just make clear that cheskas mori kama is not the same as just an assumption. You have a chazaka like an assumption. I've got an assumption that what was that? Or presumption, not something, presumption, right? Cheskas mori kama is stronger than that. Cheskas mori kama is like me holding a piece of a movable item in my hand. If I originally was the owner of the land, that's the same as that's the same level of ownership as someone holding a piece of metal in him, which is you're assumed to be the owner. That's a strong. No, that's it. Those are the 2 things.
Oh, I see.
Those are the 2. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So the next time we'll press on with the next sugya. But as I said, it was a bit of a detour, a bit of a side route today. But I think it was worthwhile because we learned this beautiful Tosfos and a Rochanan, which is very good. Okay. Have a good evening. See you all next time. See you, Johnny.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming.
Sure.